What's up, good people? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy J Kits. I'm super excited about this new series that I have for you guys where we're going to cover producing in Pro Tools. This is part one where we're going to cover the basics. Let's get right into it. J Kits, J Kits, J Kits, J Kits. So again, this is just the basics of the setup of Pro Tools and how it looks. You know, a lot of times learning a whole new DAW, it's about how it feels, you know, just the entire interface and getting familiar with what all the buttons do, where the settings are, working your way around it. And once you become comfortable with it, then it really opens up your creativity the way you naturally let it flow. You're not really hindered or limited by the setup. And I promise I'll do my best to keep it as simple as possible, but strap in just in case. So let's go ahead and jump into the session and get right to the basics. All right, guys, so right here in the interface, man, I basically have a blank canvas. What you're looking at is just my microphone input coming in. I have a track and a MIDI track here just for demonstration purposes. Again, I'm just covering some of the basic things that will have an effect on our production, how we produce. And so why I feel so comfortable producing in Pro Tools, man, is because it's just very hands-on for me. Like over time, of course, I've been using it for a while, but over time, I think Avid has really simplified its functionality to feel more hands-on. So looking at this interface, you know, it's just about getting familiar with it. It's about getting comfortable. Getting creative is the point, you know. You don't want to get hindered by the technology. You know, how it looks really matters. With that being said, let's look at this interface real quick. At the very top, we have our toolbar. Right here in the middle, we have our edit window with our track, our MIDI track. Here to the far left, we have our track list where we can hide and show what we want to see on the edit window. And to the right, we have our clips list where we can select our clips that are currently present as well. Of course, our tracks here. And let me stress how important the toolbar is, especially producing in Pro Tools. It expresses my functionality. I describe it as having like handles in basketball, how swift I can move, how good I can move around within the screen and getting things done in a swift manner. That matters to me in my workflow. Functionality is very important. So when we see it up top, we have, of course, you know, our zoom tools here. We can zoom in and out. You can also do that here at the very bottom where it's the plus and the minus here. We can zoom out, we can zoom back in. We also have a zoom selector where we can zoom in, hold Option, and then click. It helps us zoom right back out. We also have our functionality for our selector tool here, where on slip, it's a freedom of movement, and grid, of course, snaps to the grid. I usually use these two and shuffle for some purposes, but I'll get to that in a later video. So right here, we have our smart tool where we have trim, we have selector tool where we can select and cut and splice things. We have our grabber tool. We can actually grab it and move it around. Then we can select all three, which at the bottom of the track, we can move, grab, we can go to the edge and trim, and then we can just select at the top. All right, of course, right here, we have our tempo where we can set our tempo to whatever we wish. We have our transport space right here where we can change the grid. And lastly, we have our quantize station where we can basically select our MIDI or audio if it's spliced up onto the grid and, you know, quantize it to our liking. Now let's take a look at a few of the customizations. So one of the newer things I love about Pro Tools is you're able to customize your whole aesthetic, your user interface theme, and you can change the coloring of your session. Make it easier on your eyes, brighter, darker. These are my two custom ones. I have like a dark theme. I have like a softer version of that one. And then you can also go into here and see some really interesting colors. You can also access the classic version of Pro Tools' user interface. So this is kind of like the original one that they had, but I really like my new one. I think it's just easier on my eyes. But you can also customize it how you like. Like here, I can change how I want my tracks to look. Whether I want them colored in fully or not, I have that ability to change it, or a little bit more brighter and festive. It's all up to your liking, but I need it to be something that I really want to sit in front of and make beats in all day. And my favorite customization is the keyboard shortcuts. And I'm gonna actually cover this in part two because it's just so lengthy of what I wanna talk about. But it's especially good for people that are coming over from a different DAW like Logic or Ableton, and you're able to retain some of your just hotkeys to getting things done. Now moving on to some of the other tools we have for production, we have our events operations, of course, where we have a quantizer. We have a number of different options here. We also have a MIDI editor. If you double click here on the MIDI region, you can pull up the editor. You can also select and deselect it down here. We can pull up the full editor. You can also extend it however large you like. We also have the event operations here in our MIDI editor window, and you can just select your notes and make all the necessary changes that you need. And also down here, we have something called clip effects, which is a really nice touch that I think Pro Tools added for just editing. And like, imagine editing loops and you can just select this part here. You're able to manipulate the region as opposed to making a new track. To change that property, you can actually go in here and EQ it and do some, some decent EQing, some filtering. You can add some compression, some gating, and change its properties. It's just, again, a really nice touch. So I hope this was a good takeaway for you guys, a good insight into the beginnings of producing in Pro Tools. Stick around for part 2, man. I have a lot to uncover in the details. And shout out to all my new subscribers, man. I'm almost at 300. Listen, despise not the day of small beginnings. I'm definitely appreciative of all you guys.
Appreciate y'all though.
And make sure you like the video, comment below, leave all your Q&A in the comments. I love answering questions. It could definitely help a lot of other people that may have similar questions too. Thanks for watching again, and tune in for part 2. Peace.